We are living the great fiction of the American dream. It is a place where generations can get something for nothing. It is a world that we can print unlimited money and debt from a privately, foreign-owned central bank. It is a dream of a consumer-led society and not of a manufacturing society. It is the hallucination of a trillion-dollar war machine securing the world's natural resources for the elite and their corporations. It is a land where people think that digits on their screen are real wealth and that fractional reserve banking is safe. It is an illusion that the more debt we create, the richer we are. It is said that men go mad in herds and only come to their senses slowly and one by one. Charles Mackay. We willingly suspend disbelief every day to live in this American dream. Some are starting to wake up from this dream, and that scares the masters that control this dream. They need to put us back to sleep, or at least scare us with some campfire stories. The world is waking up from this perceived reality, and now people are starting to see through this dream. The implications for the criminal elite are truly frightening, and they know it. The elite can control the flow of silver and essentially control the market. This is true as we've seen for the past year in the paper silver markets. The elite can knock 30% off the price of a silver in a heartbeat. The elite can continue to trade 1 billion ounces of paper silver a day. They can do this even though there is only 1 billion ounces of silver produced every year, and that there's only 30 million ounces of silver in the registered vaults of the COMEX. They can continue to manipulate the markets by effectively doubling the cost of margins in only 8 days. They can continue to have the 8 largest banks net short 150 days of global silver production, without ever settling or delivering the physical metal. They can continue to trade 45, 100, 1,000 times paper ounces for every 1 ounce of physical silver. They can continue to take unlimited paper losses so long as the Fed and the Treasury backs them up in this paper suppression game. They can continue to break down regulations and expand their thieving. They can continue to have insider knowledge of smackdowns. They can continue to pressure miners and refiners. They can continue to lease metal that they don't have. They can continue to create money and debt out of thin air. They can continue to use dark pools of liquidities and derivatives to add further layers to the game. They can continue to change the rules and raise the borrowing costs just like they did to the Hunt brothers. They can continue to have the regulators turn a blind eye to the manipulative schemes they pull. They can continue to demonetize silver like they did in 1873 and 1964. They can continue to squeeze billionaires to dump their 129 million ounces of silver over their ties with AIG. They can continue to sell unallocated silver and ETFs as an alternative to real physical silver. They can continue to push gold as the real metal to own, because the criminal elite have a lot of that in their central banks.
On the other hand, if you're very safety conscious, you hang on to your gold bars.
They can continue to demonize real assets and continue to glorify the latest and greatest paper instrument. They can continue to trade and control their casino. They can do all of this until the music stops. Things that cannot go on forever won't. The world is waking up to see what these few hundred insiders have done to humanity with debt and war. Western citizens are waking up to the financial terrorism of the criminal elite, having been burned in the stock and housing bubbles and paying for perpetual wars. These citizens no longer trust the safety nets that only seem to benefit the too-big-to-fails and the well-connected. They no longer trust the computer-rigged markets or the brokers betting against their own clients. They no longer trust the media that spins the criminal elite's lie every day. They no longer trust the governments that lied us into war after war. They no longer trust the regulators asleep at the wheel. They no longer trust the politicians that promise hope and change and give us more of the same. They no longer trust that their retirement, jobs, or future is safe. They no longer trust that you can consume your way to prosperity. They no longer trust the corporations that seek short-term gains at the long-term deterioration of our society. They no longer trust the dollar, as it will reach its mathematically inevitable collapse. They no longer trust that the music will play forever, and they want out. Because of all of this and more, people are seeking the safety of silver. It has no counterparty risk, unlike all paper assets. It has a allodial title to it, unlike all paper assets. It has a 5,000-year history of real wealth, unlike all paper currencies. It will never go to zero, unlike most paper assets. And it is historically and inflationary cheap today. The silver bullet and the SilverShield is a way that we can walk away from this paradigm and empower ourselves. Every ounce of silver we take out of their casino has a deleveraging effect, as there's hundreds if not thousands of paper contracts on top of every single physical ounce. Every physical ounce of silver we buy represents 10 days of hard human labor, in a world that does not have massive credit or energy supplies. In the Silver Bullet and the SilverShield, I set forth just about every reason why you should sell every single paper asset you have and buy physical silver. I have never seen another asset with as many reasons to buy and hold in my life. I do not believe that JP Morgan is going to go down with the ship, and that they could go long and stay long. They do have vaults, and I'm sure they'll be first in line to claim their physical silver when the time is right. I know for a fact there will be a physical default of silver one day. Inventories cannot continue to drop, and paper contracts cannot continue to rise without this happening. And when that happens, everything will change. It will not just be that the dollar dies. It will most likely be the institutions, the ideas, the systems that perpetuated the lie will die too. No longer will people listen to those that at best did not see this coming, or at worst made this happen. This crisis will not lead to a consolidation of power into a world currency, but a shattering of globalization into a decentralized, slower, local way of life. Communities will go about rebuilding a more sustainable society. Some may create their local currencies and barter systems. Many, I believe, will use gold and silver to supplement their new banking system. Even if silver truly never gets monetized again, it should rise in real purchasing power. After all, silver is not monetized now, and it is aggressively attacked from all ends, and it's still up 400% since 2008. If the elite were all powerful, why isn't silver back down to 7? And we have not seen the final collapse of the paper money system. Wait until the whole world tries to save their quadrillions in paper assets and try to buy anything with real tangible value. All real tangible assets will rise, not just gold and silver. Heck, even your kids' Beanie Babies might be worth some serious money again. The Silver Bullet and the SilverShield seeks to protect our assets and strike at the weak underbelly of the quadrillion-dollar empire of lies. And it's not just for Western citizens to grasp onto. What about the billions of people outside the Anglo-American Empire who want a shot at the title? China, Russia, Iran, India, Germany, France, South Africa, Brazil, and many other countries who are sick and tired of the Anglo-American elite's banking power and the wars that they fund. They can win the biggest battle of all by not even firing a single shot. Right now they're buying gold and other real assets, but they have trillions of our dollars, and this will eventually find its way into all commodities, including silver. The BRICS nations are moving heavily to dump the dollar in every aspect of their lives. The number 2 and number 3 largest economies, Japan and China, have recently dumped the dollar in bilateral trade. The criminal elite cannot stop an idea whose time has come. The simple idea is things that cannot go on forever won't. The world sees how the criminal elite really work, and the world wants out of the dollar, and only real tangible assets provide a way out. The criminal elite can try to corner the flow of silver, but the rest of the world is cornering the criminal elite. The dollar is doomed, and there's no stopping that. The best that the criminal elite can hope for is that they can fool enough people into a World Bank or an IMF-sponsored currency, which of course will be controlled by the same Anglo-American bankers. But with the recent meeting of the BRICS nations, that seems like a far-off dream that will not happen. When the dollar collapse happens, there will be power vacuums all over the world, and local power will fill the void where the dollar once reigned supreme. The Anglo-American elite will fail horribly in their quest for a one-world currency, and it will shatter into 1,000 pieces. Decades of schemes and deceptions will be turned upside down in a few weeks. Try as they might, the Anglo-American elite cannot stop reality. The reality is that debt cannot be created forever. The reality is that you cannot pay for $140 trillion of unfunded liabilities without destroying the dollar. The reality is we cannot spend our way into prosperity. The reality is that they cannot deliver all the paper silver that they say they have. The reality is that wealth is going east. The reality is the Anglo-American Empire has not been good stewards of their power and deserve to lose it. The reality is the economy will never come back until all the debt is purged from the system. The reality is that China and the rest of the world is growing as Western nations fail. The reality is millions of Americans will never put a dime back into the hands of Wall Street. The reality is the elite are powerful, but they're not all powerful. The reality is that the minions that serve the criminal elite now on every level will abandon ship as soon as their first check bounces, and they will start pointing the fingers up at the guilty. The reality is that you can fool some of the people some of the time, but not all of the people all of the time. The reality is we're going to have a reversion to the mean, divine retribution, karma, or whatever you want to call it, and it's going to shake the elite's power to the ground. I believe that simply looking at the gold to silver ratio, that silver is going to outperform gold despite whatever paper manipulations happen. The ratio that gold and silver come out of the ground is about 1 ounce of gold for every 10 ounces of silver. We know implicitly that gold has been treasured as a precious metal throughout all of human history, and silver has more or less been trashed as an industrial metal for the past 138 years. So then why are we at a 1 to 53 gold to silver ratio? The reason is because silver is the Achilles heel of the Anglo-American banking empire. They know this, they must suppress it, and they must dissuade you from ever even looking at its direction. It is a direct threat to their quadrillion-dollar empire of lies. This cannot go on forever. Over the past year, the paper manipulation has been so obvious that it has served notice to all silver investors to avoid the rigged paper game in the banker's casino. I have only ever recommended buying real physical silver in your possession. I saw what the criminal elite were capable of in 2008 when they knocked the price of silver down from $21 to $8, and I vowed never to get caught in that trap again. Eventually, we will take enough physical silver off the market to control the real market of silver, not the paper market. I believe that this will coincide with the collapse of the world's currencies and other paper assets, leading to the most devastating 1-2 punch in investment history. Those that were lured into the paper markets like the MF Global customers got burned. But they have learned a very valuable lesson and will only buy physical from here on out. No more miners, no SLV, no more options, just cold, hard physical silver in your hand.